Good morning, folks. We're going to continue work on this book cover here that we were commissioned by Joseph Vargas, Ukulele Boy. Ukulele Bard. I'm sick. I'm a little off kilter. I don't know how my energy is going to be today, but we're just doing some Bob Ross painting for the foreground here of this cover, and then maybe doing some touch up in the background. So I've got maybe 100 minutes in me, probably less. We'll see how long I last before I need to pass out. But give me a second to check my signal, go through my intro spiel, and then we'll get to work. Go through my intro spiel. Yeah, I do sound low energy today. It's okay. We get by with a little help from my friends. So, hey, my name is Phil Kearney. I create role-playing games and I illustrate them. In the description down below, there's a slew of work that I've done on the DMsGuild. Maybe across all the books that are linked down below. It's probably about 150 different illustrations that I've produced over the past couple of years in Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition content. You can check out those books. There's a huge sale going on, 40% off. If you like any of that stuff, if you're a D&D enthusiast, certainly be welcome to check it out or make a few purchases if you think this stuff is cool to support this channel. Otherwise, there's a Patreon link down below. You can follow me for $1 a month if you want. I just posted that I'm live on Twitter, so if you want to find out when I'm live in the future for similar events, follow me at Phil Kearney. Otherwise, best way to support the channel right now is like, subscribe, hit the bell icon, and engage in conversation with me. I'd love to have some folks here hanging out with me while we're doing some artwork. Otherwise, it's kind of a study hall sort of vibe with some chillax music from Epidemic kicking around in the background. So we're gonna get to work here. Here's the framing, which is basically just like the cover dressing, the cover work, the buy logo, the logo, the byline at the bottom. We're gonna conceal those for now. And that was the rough. I want to conceal that, the frame. There we go. So here's our illustration in general. You'd seen us building out Yggdrasil in previous episodes, but when you pan out and look at it overall, it looks pretty good. Next, we did the mountains in the background, and we crept along the mountain to the foreground to lay in some hills, some little valleys, rivulets, lake, forest. And now as we continue further into the foreground, that you can get the sense that the ground is like raising in elevation. So as it raises up in elevation to the foreground, we have the opportunity to be in high enough elevation to start having evergreen trees instead of the deciduous deciduous type leaves that we have in the down at the coastline. So this is very much an Oregon or Washington sort of Pacific Northwest feel, or maybe like Ireland but more highlands. You know, I don't think there's a lot of evergreen in Ireland. Let me know if I'm wrong. I've never been there. But all we have to do is fill in this foreground, so we need to have some good definition in this. We have this 2 steps, right? So we're looking at. Let's get the foreground up here. So you got here, which is 1 step, and then here is another step. So we need treetop definition here, and then we'll need bush, tarmac, and evergreen trees here. And we're gonna do this Bob Ross style, which is my favorite style of doing landscape environments. So give me a second here to get oriented. Top step. What color be you? I need to set a timer. That's right. Mm-hmm. 20 minutes on the block like we do. Let's start. Let's see what this is like. Let's start with that red that we have back there, but we're gonna dull it down a little bit. Let's do that. First thing we're doing is just blocking in land mass here. We're going to cover it over, but I just wanted to make sure I know where it's actually at. So let's grab a what would effectively be a big round brush in Bob Ross's world, which to us is just a large smudge brush. We call it our cloud chalk brush because it feels chalky. We have a high opacity, a high strength here at 80%. Lets us pull pull a lot of ink, a lot of color all at the same time. Take this and just round it down a little bit. Those lines like that. I stream 9 days. I stream 9 times a week across 6 days, Monday through Friday. In the mornings, I'm doing I'm doing Spelljammer art, which is a fantasy space pirate setting in Dungeons and Dragons. So we do ship and character combat, exploration, and spellcasting artwork for that in the mornings, Monday through Friday. Tuesday at lunch we do mechanical development for more D&D stuff. Martial Powers is an alternate magic system for to have combat like sword and sword guys, like sword and shield guys. I mean, oh, that's sick. Basically, martial types to have magic without having to cast spells, to make it a part of the actions that they perform. We call it Martial Powers. It's a blend of both 3rd edition and 4th edition concepts that we're updating and introducing into 5th edition for use in any campaign, but also specifically with color mana. If you want to get into Magic the Gathering stuff for your role-playing game, this will be a really good book for that. So you'll see more of that on Tuesday, and then on Monday and Thursday nights, I create artwork for an Eberron adventure. Right now we're focusing on cartography. We're doing maps for each of the towns, dungeons, and regions that the characters can adventure in during the course of the adventure. And so we're getting close to done with that. And when we do, we'll start token production for all the monsters and characters that the players will encounter over the course of the adventure. So that's coming along very nicely. Once the Spelljammer project on Monday through Friday morning is done, then we'll move Eberron into our morning daily slot as we continue producing tokens for that. Honey tea is so good for the throat. Once that's finished, tokens, and then once the edits are finished, then we'll do page layout and break up the maps to fit on each page to talk about each specific region and in the context of the adventure. And then from there, we'll do once the page layouts are done, we'll put spot art in all the places left open on the page for us to do, art. So, and then Mondays and Thursday nights we'll do Martial Powers, and then Tuesday lunch we'll do something else, something small. So I never do small projects. So I'm really looking forward to having Spelljammer done and to open up some space for me to do small stuff. And again, on Saturday morning, obviously right now I'm doing commission work. And once this is done, I think I have another book cover that I'm being asked to produce. So we'll take a look at what that may shape up to be and get after that. So let's see. So that's a base. Next thing we want to do is add in more stuff. So let's go grab a brush that lets us do more stuff. We're going to. I think what I want to do is reference some images, but I know I want. I want to use my brush, my brush burst brush. Here's what this thing does. Burp. Doesn't look like much, but it'll shape up nicely. So let's get into here. Yeah, this is the kind of stuff that I'm looking for right here. Right there. It's exactly what I want. Take that reference there. Good difference. All right. Reduce the brush down to 80 pixels. I'm just going to tap in. Just stippling. It's just this brush is creating this flump effect like you would see on like a 1-inch round brush that Rob would use to just create just rough foliage. We're just creating landmass here, so it doesn't have to be anything particularly exciting, and it's just stipple dots right now, right? Get rid of some of those outliers. I'm turning the brush a little bit here and there to create that randomization effect. Anyone can create brushes like these. They're just sets of pixels, and I have mine specifically built here in a wedge like this, so that I can theoretically come around here like that. And build out a full circle with it if I need to. It doesn't, it has like the hints of a replicating pattern, but it's not precise, which is kind of how nature works in general. So it's a really good brush. You can create any brush like that. And it'll end up having a good organic feeling to it. And I can spend a session creating brushes like that sometime in the future when my plate is clear. But we're going to take the same brush and use an eraser with it, and we're going to use the same size, the 80 pixels. And I'm going to just tap at it here like this, so that you can. I'm just tapping the eraser just to disintegrate some of the blocks of color that we have here, like that. So we're creating this like two-tone, like this, anime has this really great cell shading technique that has a dark, a mid-tone, a light, and then a highlight. So it's like four-tone cell shading. So what we've already done here is we've established the base color at the bottom. Then we have a mid-tone or a lighter color above that acts in this instance as the mid-tone. And I'm actually going to grab this here. I'm going to tap in that mid-tone a little bit like that. So it ends up looking like this. That's not how I want it. Like that. I'm gonna get this sort of an effect just along the edge here, just to rough up the edge. So this can play in with the rest of the foliage. I'm filling in some of the gaps here in the back with the tone using the same brush technique, so it just looks like layering the same type of matter, like foliage. But you want to have those little, you want to have like these little pip gaps in here. You want to have those because that's the way that branches work. They fluff up, and there's little spots of light that can poke through on them. So you want to have that scatter effect. You don't want to have anything locked down too hard, so that you have the opportunity to have that luminance come through and help make it feel a little more organic. But I needed to dark down over here to help push against the color of the forest down below. It helps start separating the two. It's not much of a separation right now, but once we light in the highlights, it'll become really apparent. I can spot it that again on the top. Some outliers by spinning the brush around to create some random patterns that in the long haul, in the law of large numbers, all these little bits replicate, because I can only turn and spin the brush so many ways when I'm tapping. So there will be an eventual appearance of a replicatable pattern, but it's so thin that it reads just more like these are all part of the same plant, like this is the same anatomy, which is exactly what we want. Like barely recognizable patterns that default to the larger language of brush, like branches and leaf formations. You know, if that makes any sense. The subtle patterning doesn't take you out of the illusion that you're inside of a painting or that's a landscape, because the pattern isn't mechanical. It's a very organic pattern, in fact, which is very natural, like as in nature. That. See, over the course of a few minutes, you start creating this neat little tufting. And that's at 70, 80, so we're going to go up here, we're going to grab that highlight. There's two colors here that I can use. I can use that one, and then we got these highlights here. See, they're all greens up over here in the upper right hand corner. You can see they're all different variants of greens. So I can create that four tone cell shading like you see in anime I was talking about, and it should blend in really nicely. Hold on real quick. Orange juice for the vitamin C. Honey tea to make it go down smooth. All right, we're going to use a fourth layer here, and we're going to use our mid highlight. Let's see how it sits. We're going to go to, we're using the same brush because it's the same type of leaf that we're replicating. So we were at 70 pixels here, but I'm going to drop down to 50 and see how that feels. Tapping on the tops. We're going to try to minimize, much like we did last episode with a lot of detail at the top of the hill, and then smooth it down as we work towards the ground below. We want to do something similar here. We're going to tap in this brighter color, but we want to have it fade out as we move further down the bush. We'll be able to create depth that way here in a moment. Just going to finish in tapping this, and that's going to take care of some of the highlighting that's happening in between them. And then we can take a slightly larger, we were at 50 pixels, now we're at 60 pixels. And we're going to do the same coloring, but we're going to try to retain some of that black and fade that we had over here to create a sense of separation between these two clumps. And this will all end up being concealed, but we know it's here. And then we tap and erase and spin it around to not be too plain. Drop it down and do that same color separation by fading out with more erasure further down. So that leaves a little pocket here for us to be able to fill in. Just another, I'm gonna erase that real quick and up the size of the brush to 70 and fill in a little bit like that. Again, I want to extend down below my margin line here. Even though it's probably going to be covered over, again, it's really nice to know that it's there. And if there's any gaps in the foliage for the next set of nature that we layer over, it'll provide us an opportunity to see that there's a fully fleshed out world here. That feels pretty good. And now our fourth layer will be the highlights. And we're going to drop down to let's see what dropping down to 35 does for us. Yeah, maybe 40. And I'm going to change the pattern on this a little bit. Squeeze down, make this a little less round like that. And so I'm going to make sure I keep this curve at the top of the page as I tap through here like that. I don't want to have it spin all the way upside down. I want to try to retain the shaping effect, like the shell sort of highlighting effect with since this is going to be the brightest highlight on this particular set of plant. I want to do something like that. Just sun-kiss it a little bit. I'm going to use the same 50-inch brush, but I'm going to drop the opacity on it down to 50 so it doesn't fully erase anything it taps. So when I tap at it, it's just going to smudge it out a little bit, but it's not going to fully get rid of it. I'm treating this differently than the rest of the composition here along this edge because I'm messing around with highlights. I just treat highlights a little bit differently. I even push it up a little bit using the tools, the moving tools in Photoshop. I'm going to increase it from 40 to 50 in the brush stroke, and I'm going to drop the strength of the brush to 80% instead of 100. So we're going to start having a little bit more of a stack effect going on here. Just fill in the gaps that we see, but still keeping the curve topward so we can continue with that dome shaping. Thank you, timer. Time for some honey tea, and hey, hi Sister Kumar. I don't think I've seen you on the channel before. Welcome to the mix. I spent maybe a year making 120 different Bob Ross illustrations using these same techniques. Just to learn how they do. I'm using the eraser here again at 50%, the tap at this second row of highlights that we're doing. Hey, welcome to the mix, man. Are you an art enthusiast or are you a role-playing game enthusiast? Because I create art for role-playing games, so either way, you're good here. We're going to increase the size of the pixel of the brush to 60 from 50, and we're going to drop the opacity here from 80 down to 70, and we're going to tap again here at the edge we created, and we're going to start leaving some gaps of darkness to help separate one from the other. So I create role-playing games, like mostly I create third-party D&D content, like alternate rules or gap-filling rules, and then we build the book, and then I do layouts and I illustrate them. Can you tell me how did you open that tab? Which tab? Meow? Like this? Happy to answer any technical question if I understand what it is. Now which tab are you using? Tab. Well, I mean, this is Photoshop that I'm in, and I'm using my OBS tools. So this is this is called OBS. It's, I don't know if that's what you're asking about. So I have a layer for my Photoshop here. Oops. Double oops. Thank you. And then I've got a window capture here. And this sidebar here doesn't have a specific window. It's just part of the overall screen. So you can see that, like if I were to push these forward here, that I have the canvas, and then I have my tools. But when I pull these down to the background and show video capture, goes over here where my face is, and then I'm doing a display capture, which is my entire screen. So I'm just giving you my entire screen, so like you can see it's my entire screen. So when I switch back tab to my Photoshop canvas and this window, the tools window, they stay on top, but you can still see my video window, the chat reel here on the side, and then you can see my toolbox over here, but you can also see the end of my OBS poking out the end over here. So this also lets me, here, let me fix this. And I can see how long I've been live. I've been live for 20 minutes, and I'm not recording this currently for myself. I can just see the performance of my CPU over here, and I can see that everything is properly layered. It sounds like that's, get out of here. It sounds like that's what you're asking about, like how I'm controlling the camera and the chat window. The chat window is just part of OBS. And then I have my my Epidemic music channel down here in the bottom rack. So I can always just pop that and switch songs if I want. Sounds like that was the question you were asking, so hopefully I answered that well for you. So back to the Staplin. There, now we have a nice, sharper, high tone value in the foreground here compared to the mid-tone that we have for the deciduous tree forest and lake and rivers down further down below. So we're creating a sense of elevation here. I think what I want to do is I want to grab this. I'm going to I'm going to bond all these together. I'm going to call them backbush. I'm going to put a layer over it. I'm going to switch to a mountain chalk brush. I just want to make some little rock formation stuff. Just have that poke through. So I'm just seeing, here I'm just looking at, let's drop the opacity on this so you can see through it. So I'm just looking at where's a cool little pattern I can take, and where's the curve of this tree or this foliage flump here, how that curves. So I can use that as a guiding light of this is a curve in space. So this is like becomes the back end, like here is what the shape of that is. And like this is here, but it's being concealed by this. So I can use that topography to shape the stonework that we're messing around with right now. Here, I'm making this central scoop funnel sort of effect here. It's got this going on, so we have this natural curve that's happening here that's going to help push the eye in the middle towards a curve like this reflects you back into the space where it's curving around. So this is a subtle way to get your eye to open back up and fall back into the sea inlet, so that your eye starts to play around inside the canvas here. And as we add in as we reintroduce the foreground, then these copes of trees will help further frame your eye to curve around. So as you come out of this bowl here and moves around, it'll hit these trees, push down into the foliage, and then it'll rise back out of that cup, and you can mess around up here, and your eye will wander back down to here. It'll hit this copse of trees, and it'll climb up those trees again, and it will hit just the flow of the eye. It'll fall up the trees, then it'll hit this tree, so there's a natural connection here, so your eye will naturally just want to wander up into a drazzle, and then that'll all just eventually make your eye just think about dropping back down, and then it'll hit the clouds, the mountains, and then your eye will just fall into the sea or go across to the landscape top, and then back into this curl effect. So this is just how the eye just kind of moves around the page. So I'm trying to help orchestrate that movement. With the shapes that we use. So I'm going to grab reference again. That feels like a good one. I'm just tapping in some highlights on the rock here. Just like Bob Ross does, just edges the light with the highlight, and then we'll be able to pull the highlight into the piece. Them some faces, my guy. Yeah, I'm here 6 days a week, 9 times. Monday I'm on twice, Tuesday I'm on twice, Thursday I'm on twice. I go for about 120 minutes, typically anywhere from like 80 to 120 minutes, so anywhere from like an hour and a half to 2 hours typically. Just short little bursts like that. So we built in a little ridge line there, and I'm going to grab my There it went. Come back here. My mountain blade. This looks. This looks like a razor blade, like a very broken up razor blade, but it has all this grit information in here. So as I use this for my smudge brush, and I use like say 80 some odd percent power, that's almost 90% power there. Yeah, that's good. I can take this, and depending on, since there's a lot of information here, if I pull along this line here, that all of this information here moving in this direction will create a solid line. But with such a high opacity here and these little empty spots, those empty spots won't grab any of the pixel information here, so it should make like a little choppy effect. So let's see if that's true. See, got that little choppy effect. So I can start mincing some of this stuff down here by tapping back. Like I'm tapping, pushing, tap and push, and I can turn the brush so that I can randomize the patterns a bit. But I tap and push to help break it up a little bit, and as I get more aggressive with it, it turns it a little bit more into salad there, so it breaks up some. There. I'm going to take it up to 100% so there's no pixel information left behind. There. Break that up a little bit. There. See, it creates neat little blobbles and bobbles. And then I can take this brush, my chisel, and start carving that up a little bit. Hey, see you later, my guy. Thanks for swinging through. Chalk it up a little bit. Use the flat edge of it to create that line. Use the back side of it and push the pixel information down into the mass, like such. There, nice little texture-y stuff going on here. Alright, now I'm going to use it's the cloud brush. The lower strength, like around 60. Just going to pull at the edges here a little bit. Drop down to 20, 40. Just to smooth out the base. There, nice patchy rock. Now let's see. Let's build something on top of that. We're going to grab a different type of brush. Let's grab our faded shrubbery brush and let's reduce. Here's how it normally looks. It does this nice little light effect. I'm gonna reduce the size of it so it's more like that. See, it makes this neat little moss effect. Just like that. And then we'll grab a similar brush to erase with. It's really great little mossing. Just tapping away just to add some more of that color information back in. Use our little chisel here again to erase unneeded information from the exterior of the rock. Now let's go to our reference here and here's this nice little texture. There we go. I'm just tapping with an eraser at 100%, but there's so little information per brush stroke that see, even though I'm tapping at this, here it slowly disintegrates the color. So now it has this really great aged look to it. And it took very little effort at all. And help separate this back here. So I think what I want to do is, now that we have that rock established, rocks. I'm going to come back through, grab this dark, change the brush up. Let's yeah, let's switch this foliage spin brush here. We'll drop it down to a lower strength here, like that. And we're gonna have it just kind of stumble and tumble on through here. Grab that. I didn't grab it. You're just not wanting to pick up any of my bits, are you? Fine, we'll bring Moses to the mountain. Bring the mountain to Moses. There we go. Doing that shadow here is basically a bush that we're building. It's about all we need for that. Let's see if that sits pretty. We'll move on into here. Let's move back to a normal round brush. 100% opacity. Not mind these little things poking through at all. It just adds interest and texture So it's really useful that it sits in there. I'm gonna drop down the strength, just like that. Smooth that in a little bit better. Now we have to start thinking about the logo and the byline down here. So adding the frames back in. We know we want to de-emphasize. While this is the foreground, bottom center, we'd want to have a lot of, if this is just a standalone illustration, having a lot of points of interest down here at the bottom is someplace your eye is naturally going to be drawn to. But because it's an advertisement for the text inside of the document, we actually want the design and edited and logo. We want that stuff to actually jump out the most. So that's why they occupy this bottom edge. It's a natural resting place for the eye to go to. Top of the page pulls them into the rest of the image, and by the time they get to the bottom of the page, that's where they're going to rest. Because they're processing the information of like what is this and who is it by. In the transition between those two things, the artwork says a lot about what expectations you can have inside of this. So, yeah, I got another 40 minutes in me. I think we're doing okay. All right, so the next thing we want to do is we want to perfect. Okay. Okay, so we want to have foliage here. We want to have a tree here and here. So let's start building trees. And go back to our reference document here. We're going to pull from this one here. Nice and dark. Take our rough, we're going to drop our rough here. I'm going to take our brush down to 10 pixels. Yeah, really easy to just tap in some trunks. Take the smudge brush and pull at the bottom. So they don't have any heavily defined endpoint. So help make all this blend in together. I'm going to taper them. I usually have like these little burrs that stick off. That's a natural place for me to taper, trim off that burr. Thin down the little spear tips. Now let's go back to our reference image here and let's grab, this is a very dark base. 220, very minimal. It's almost as black as you can get, but we're going to pick up our coniferous. We used the top of this brush like that to create all this forestry in here. You can see that shape here, and you can see the shape here. You can see the shape here and here and here and here and here. It's got this recurring language, but we're going to use the same brush, but we're going to use it differently. So we're going to reduce the size of this brush down to about 30 some odd pixels. And then we're going to create a separate layer. This is the trunks. Just gonna tap, 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 tap. Just a bunch of tiny little taps. And then you can use the same brush. Tap, 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 erase anything that's too clumpy and dark. So this way we can create really fast, easy little treetops. I'm going to trim that up a little bit and tap out. So punching holes in it. I'm going to tap and punch holes in it. But up here we can keep that. That looks pretty good far up here. I'm going to just erase it just a little bit, just to get rid of some of the squigglies. Then we're going to come through with a different brush. Just decided to dump this in just as a mass. We're going to add interest to this by switching to a saggy branch like this. Flatten out the curve a touch. I'm going to put this on a separate layer on top of it, and we're going to tap here. I want to make the branches smaller the further away from the trunk they get. So I can use larger brush like this here at the core and just tap down these little smiles. Laughing our way down the tree trunk. And I'm using a light eraser, only a 30% opacity, just to disintegrate some of the color information without all of it going away, so that when I tap back in, it creates neat little layering effects like that. So I can disintegrate a little bit and then add back in. Disintegrate a bit and then add back in. Disintegrate a little bit and then add it back in. And then make my brush larger as I get closer to the bottom of the tree. I like that little pocket there. I want to get rid of that. Disintegrate, fill back in. This creates this illusion of volume, the different color depth information. Now I'm flipping the brush over, upside down. Just letting that create a little contrast and information there. actually. I don't like how far out it's hanging already. So I'm gonna big bold batches. Patch of dark. So you can see a little touch of the water poking through, and you can see some of the little hints of stuff that need to actually remain in the piece. Larger brush, and I can just start chunking some of this stuff in here. And so if I flip this brush around like that, I can create these neat little language here, like that. It's little baby trees. I get a thick mass of this here, and just chunk. Just chunking it in. The silhouette itself is strong. There, like that. Just like that. It's a little too linear. I'm gonna shave that down. Yeah, that feels good. See, nice chunk. It's a nice chunky chunk. We'll use our smudge brush and just pull at the edges of it a little bit, pull it into the document. As we do, just to fade it in. And we'll lift up, push up into it, the haze again. And that's without using any specific highlights yet. It already has a ton of just information that's packed into it. So it's starting to look pretty good. We have this trunk over here. Let's grab that. Let's just do that. I have this little offshoot tree over here. So grab the same brush like this. Zero. we're gonna do it on the other side. So let's hop across over to here. We got our trunks, got our mass. We're gonna do a tree like this. Zero. I'm going to go to light percent here and tap through using the brush this way. So we can come back through and use the other brush. But trunks here, I want to grab this, pull that out a bit, transform. Get this rough and then pull these two. That feels fun. Let's do it like that. Nope, too much. So let's take these, drop them down like that. And these here. Nice, better framing. Let's see. Yeah, like that. Go. Just don't mind me, just quietly tapping away over here. Landmass, just pull that down. other brush that we were using, the inverted branch brush there. There we go. Smudge it all in. I'm almost out of time. That's okay. We're working on the forward. See, look at that. Even without any highlights, this stuff looks just pretty good. So, nitpick a little bit here. So since we have a lot of density that's leaning the picture this way with the flow of this silhouette here and the water here, it's funneling down into this space here. I'm going to want to have highlights that are pushing further into the foliage here than here. So I'm still sussing out how I want to do that specifically, but for now, I should be able to. How much time do I have left? I've still got 15 minutes maybe. Yeah. I'm gonna give myself. I'm gonna refresh my tea real quick, and then I'm gonna give myself 15 minutes and we'll be done. I've got this scratch here. Let's come on, buddy. Am I not able to activate stuff like that while I'm on activate? There I am. Great. That's better. I'm making some more tea. So give me a second here to make some tea. Steep, you little punk. All right, back at it. Let's grab some highlights here. A little. That feels better. All right, we're gonna use this. We're gonna use the same brush here. We're on a separate layer, like that. So I can erase these as I need to as we go down the page. These neat little pockets. We'll erase, tap our way back up the tree to help further define it. Back over here. Let's go down the trunk. Drop in some highlights, similar to we did before. Just tapping across. Not really sweating the details too much, just letting the colors mix. Let them create their own little platforms and resting spots for little creatures to hang out, spy on the humans that are trying to industrialize. Report back to Gaia so that she can destroy them. Happy little narcs. I'm going to erase a lot of that so it's only little highlights. There we go. Just like that. Tap it in, erase it out. Tap it in, erase it out. Tap it in, erase it out. A little pattern. Just like that. And changing the size of the brush helps add depth. It's subtle, but the eye registers it. So Just following the laws of art, larger brush strokes in the foreground. Larger shapes in the foreground, smaller, similar shapes in the background to imply the depth. Just tapping in some scruffage here. I'm using a lower opacity eraser now just to get rid of some of the information, but not all of it. To help it kind of fade into the background, into the ground itself. Like that. Now we can come back through and highlight like that. All blend together using a smudge brush there and eraser, and smudge it in a little bit, and eraser. There we go. Now we can use our brightest highlight. Reduce that down small there. Just tap that in a little bit and erase most of it. Just little highlights. I don't want it overwhelming the piece. I like this darkness that's breaking through the terrain behind it. Yeah, it's too sharp. I'm gonna drop that down a bit. Just keeping the same brush pattern there. Yeah, better. I'm just finding where these little curves are at and just adding this to it. There we go. It should look pretty good. Drop the opacity down there to like 30% just to take some of the cut off of the lower highlights down here. So it doesn't pop too hard. Do it again on this tree back here. Erase that a bit. There we go. I come back across over to here. That 30%. So we're pulling that highlight in here to open up that space a little bit more, like we were talking about just a few minutes ago. That feels pretty good. So now let's go to the foreground here, tap at this one. There. Some of that, blend it in. There we go. And so now that we have these back trees, they look pretty good. There we go. So we're going to go ahead and pause it there. The only thing I have left to do is all we have to do now is fill in the brush here, and then maybe pick out a few details back there. So this should be done. Next Saturday we'll be done. Because at this point we're just going to be adding more interesting texture foliage stuff into there. This is all panning out very nicely. I'm going to tap and erase that some of the stuff that's in here to break that up a bit. I'm going to do something creative over in this space here. But yeah, this thing is coming along really nicely. A lot of texture information. If you thought this stuff was cool, let me know. And drop a hello down in the comments. Be welcome to reach out to me on Twitter at Theurgy. If you want to support me, you can consider, if you're a D&D enthusiast, consider buying some of the books that I have detailed down below. Otherwise, you can just a dollar tip at Patreon would be awesome. Smudge it out. There. So when we come back next weekend, we'll be able to finish up this foreground. We're going to mix up the type of brushes that we're using to diversify what we see here. Yeah, that's where we're going to leave off. So we'll fill in this gap around here and here, and we'll make sure the logo and the byline can stand out by having very minimal throughout this area here. I'm probably going to come back through here and pick at this a little bit and pick at the coastline just a touch because we can, but otherwise I'm anticipating this being done. Hey, we just locked up too. That's great timing. Yep, so that's it for the day. I'm going to check out of here, guys. I really appreciate you being around. So, see you on the other side.